I finally got around to watching Jon Favreau's Jungle Book the other day. Yeah, I know, I'm late to the party. But I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised. It's refreshing to see a filmmaker navigate the usual remake issues intelligently. You know, instead of shitting all over the source material. Question is, does the new movie hold up to the original? Do we have a new King of the Swingers?
The trend of adapting Disney's animations is showing no signs of slowing. We've already had a Pete's Dragon, a Cinderella, 203 Dalmatians, 2 Alice in Wonderlands, 1.5 Snow Whites, and a Maleficent in a Pear Tree. And with Beauty and the Beast, Lion King, and Aladdin in the pipeline, we can only expect to see more in the coming years. Unless Guy Ritchie fucks it all up, which he probably fucking will.
Jungle Book is one of the more complicated properties to tackle. There's a lot of CGI to blend in, and past experiments haven't fared too well. Remember 1994's The Jungle Book starring Bruce Lee as Mowgli? Or Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's spin-off Welcome to the Jungle Book? Clearly the adaptation game is no easy feat, especially when you're dealing with beloved childhood classics.
The 1967 film's popularity is a testament to both Rudyard Kipling's engrossing source material and the stellar voice acting. Sure, it's a straightforward story, but the film is blessed with heart, humour, and a soundtrack so swinging, it'd make Austin Powers blush? Okay, probably not. The Doopie Bros would say it's the best Disney soundtrack of all time. At the very least, it's one of the most memorable. Which brings us to our first point of contention with the remake, the songs.
Arguably, it wouldn't be The Jungle Book without at least some musical reference. And Favreau sensibly limits himself to just 2 songs, progressively luring us in. Despite their best efforts, the procedure still feels a little jarring though. Why make your creatures photoreal if they're just going to start singing? And besides, we have these guys ready to use instead. Without the songs, you arguably have a better movie.
The same cannot be said for the original. By taking out the songs, it's barely even a movie. You're left with a lot of walking through the jungle with a few notable stopping points and a sprinkling of hypnosis along the way. Though this is true of many of Disney's animations, they love a bit of hypnosis over at Disney. Probably how they managed to acquire both Star Wars and Marvel. No wait, that was a shit ton of money.
The remake intelligently crafts the story around the major plot points, without feeling burdened by or over-reliant on them. Favreau's Jungle feels like a bigger place, with larger forces at play. The family setting of the wolf pack is used to frame up several key themes. Everything that transpires in the film leads back to those initial interactions. There's almost a Lion King circle of life feeling to the proceedings.
The original, by contrast, isn't so cerebral. There's a lot of chance encounters. Shere Khan himself only gets involved after overhearing a conversation between Bagheera and an elephant. There's irony in the fact that he's the reason Mowgli's on the run, but doesn't enter proceedings until after the fact. Idris Elba's God is a much more threatening, imposing, and calculating presence. Not unlike Tigger, nothing happens in this jungle without his express authority, even if a Cockney tiger feels a little out of place. Although intertwining his and Mowgli's backstory was a good call, creating a real sense of tension as the boy returns to confront the cat during the climax, and Mowgli loves to beat a pussy on climax.
Maybe we're being too generous with praise for the remake? For all its heft, the story and character developments are very signposted, but this is a kids movie, it's par for the course. What isn't expected though is the emotional journey the film takes you on. For grumpy buggers like the Doopies, it's uncomfortable territory to say the least. So this, combined with the action and character beats, separate Jungle Book from the average remake. The original hits you in the feels too, but it's by way of a fake-out death, the kind we've come to expect from Disney.
Favreau has again assembled an all-star cast which just about outperforms the original. And though Bill Murray can't quite top the legend that was Phil Harris as Baloo, especially in the singing department, he's easily one of the better things about the remake. And that's a rare thing these days. Best performer goes to newcomer Neel Sethi, who does some fantastic work, despite spending most of the time in front of a bunch of green screens. He should have played every part in the Star Wars prequels, to be honest. Speaking of green screens everywhere, it goes without saying that the film CGI is pretty darn epic. Not all of it hits the mark though, like the strange rain that doesn't appear to hit anyone. But we've got photorealistic tigers tearing up photorealistic panthers, and by golly, it's magnificent.
The original has some great moments too. The King Louie sequence is an absolute hoot. It was so good in fact that parts of the animation were even recycled for Robin Hood. And while our younger selves went giddy for all this, there's not quite enough substance to keep the cynical adults engaged. The film becomes a bit of a trudge as the movie winds down to its muted ending. Tired of hanging out with the talking bear and leopard, Mowgli decides to get some real pussy, and in complete douchebag fashion, ditches his friends for the first cute girl that comes along. But I guess it's mission accomplished for Bagheera, even if he does encourage the lad to go full on George McFly.
He's a peeping Tom.
As soul-destroying as it can be to see these movies getting remade, you can't deny the quality of the new Jungle Book. Cinematically, it is by far the stronger movie and wins this particular movie battle. There are depths to this film the original can't touch, which are probably best exemplified by the ending. After defeating Khan, Mowgli decides to stay with the wolf pack, and though initially scorned for his resourcefulness, the animals realise the awesomeness that is opposable thumbs, and Mowgli is allowed to embrace his humanness. Humanity? Humanity.
It's an appropriate stopping point, and though there's much left to explore, you feel the inevitable sequel has its work cut out. With Favreau being promoted to Lion King duties, it's unlikely he'll return to direct. And here lies the roadblock for the Disney Remake Express. That old sequel problem. Even the Disney animations have struggled. In fact, I'm at a loss trying to think of a good Disney animated sequel. The term direct-to-home video is there for a reason. And so far, Disney's live-action sequels haven't fared too well at the box office either.
It seems like Disney own every franchise right now. Imagine what they could do with DC. Live-action remakes are just another lucrative foothold in its already loaded movie schedule. But if they can keep up the good work, we'll no doubt get live-action adaptations of The Little Mermaid, Pocahontas, and possibly even the Pixar movies. And given the quality and integrity displayed by this most recent adaptation, there's a lot to be optimistic about, even for us skeptical bastards.
If you're upset about all these live-action Disney remakes, just remember, these new movies are pretty much animations themselves. I mean, if you took the kid out of Jungle Book, what you're left with is a CGI world populated by CGI animals, except that porcupine right there. He was real. The Disney machine will keep churning out movies in spite of your feelings, finding new ways to adapt and rob you of your hard-earned dollar. They're worse than a goddamn Terminator. And who knows, maybe one day we'll get virtual reality renditions of all these movies. Personally, we go for a bit of fantasia ourselves. That would be nice. Thanks for watching. If you like this, you should definitely check out these other movie battles and subscribe to our channel. Go on, there's the button there.